So hi everybody and welcome back to another kit review. This time we are going to look a little what's inside this beautiful box made by Academy. Academy is a Korean company but owned by a Japanese family, so the quality is exactly like a Japanese item. And the precisions, the details during the years they improved a lot. I remember that in the 90s I was working in the Italian local distributor for Academy. That was not really at the beginning, but it was the first years they were in activity. I think they started something around the 80s, And I remember that in the real beginning they were basically copying other manufacturer productions, like Italeri, like Tamiya, and so on. So there was some mysterious boxes. I remember, for example, the Panzer IV made by Academy was a bad copy of the Tamiya Panzer IV. It was an H type, so it was anyway very good because at the time they were incredibly cheap. So it was. As you know, sometimes we search for these items in modeling and stuff, the best choice between the price and what you get for. So, at the time, to make some numbers, for example, the Panzer IV-H from Tamiya was something that costed around $30. The version made by Academy, that was its clone, costed about $10. The proportion was that one. Instead, the new Academy has started since some years, since they started from the 132 scale planes, to do very, very nice new mold with the updated quality. I remember in that years in the 90s that in this company where we had the distribution for Italy and all the southern part of Europe for the Academy products. One time we had the visit of the owners of Academy. It was a young guy that was freshly married, and I remember that it was funny because they wanted to do the honeymoon in Milano in November. Guys, to do something like that in Milano is something like if you want to have an honeymoon in the suburb of London, to have an idea, in the full winter. So it was really, really, really ridiculous. I had to drive them a little around the city to show something, but the company I was working with was in the ordinary part of the city, so it was not the touristic part. And in the 90s, Milano was not so touristic at all like it is today. So it was a little impressive to see these two little Japanese kids going around Milano in the fog. So a little bit sad. The model that we have here is one of the newest items that they did in the last few years. So Academy made one of the ultra famous subject ever, the Phantom, in a 148 scale. So it is the real American scale, the real American subject, a subject that have been made by millions of other companies. On my channels you already find the kit review both in English and Italian for the F-4G, that was a derivation of the F-4E, so the long nose Phantoms used also in the Vietnam War. Despite, as you probably know, the short nose Phantom, so the CD version, was the most common version of the Phantom used during the Vietnam War. I remember that I had a close contact some years ago with a guy make gun. It was a guy from, I think, Arizona, and he was a pilot of the Phantoms in the Vietnam War, and he was over this plane. And when you talk to a real pilot coming from the war, it seems always that you are talking to a Top Gun guys. And instead, this guy was extremely humble. He said to me the truth, and he said it was really a fear situation to fly to this with these objects over the target and so on. And they were divided mostly in the bombers squadron and the fighter squadron. And it was every time it was very, very risky because of several missions. Many of them didn't return to the base, so it was kind of scary. And it was also very cool. I still saved the picture from him when he was a young guy, really looking like a kind of maverick, with the Ray-Ban glasses, placed over this Phantom, and this Phantom was completely something from a modeling point of view that you cannot do so easy. It was completely scratched, and you see all the aluminum panels coming up from the painting scheme of the Vietnam camouflage paint. And he also told me that back in the days, even if probably modelers do know this stuff, because we always think in the Vietnam Phantom like delivery and in general and just about that, but in reality the Phantoms, the long nose Phantoms, so the F4E, were just used by a Thailand base that was situated in Korat, something like that. You know, it's a place in Thailand where they had the only base that was featuring, I think it was 2 squadron only of F-4E during the Vietnam War. So it was not so common at all. It was, this one was indeed the workhorse of the Air Force during the war. And as you can see, I paid this model 60 euros. They are in the range of being a little bit pricey like everything today, but inside we have a great model in my opinion. The only really disappointing stuff for me coming from this wonderful box from Academy, it is that for a mysterious reason they try to make it again something that was made by Matchbox in the 70s, you know. So you have basically 3 different color of the sprue. As you can see, we have the white sprue, we have the gray sprue, we have the black sprue. Why this? I really have no idea, no clue about that. Why did they do that? No idea. The surface is absolutely well done. It is a lot of rivets, everything is engraved, and very nice stuff. You know, they also feature a lot of extra load for the plane. Also about this loading, you know, I remember that this pilot that was explaining me a little, you know, it was very kindly to explain to a young kid like I was, asking to a real pilot what was about the missions of these planes, you know, that very often we used to do the Phantom. They didn't show it here on the box, but as you can know probably, let me see if I find the instruction sheet. Hold on, I will show you. You know, in the instruction sheet usually there is probably a schema that I know for sure that Hasegawa does it, and I don't know if also they do it here, but there is a schema where they basically show the kind of load that the plane could have, you know, because every time that we are talking of a machine like the Phantom, we think that can feature the Sparrows missile, the Sidewinder missiles, plus the bombs and so on. In reality, it was not at all this way, because all that stuff completely overloaded the possibility of the plane to fly in the correct way, to fly decently, you know. So yes, it was allowed to do it, but they never did. So this pilot usually told me, remember, if you make a plane with Sidewinder and Sparrow, means that was the fighter group, so it was the group giving protection to the other planes, so you don't have to use the bombs and so on. As well as if you want to make the plane full loaded of bombs, you have to just use the bombs, because that was the bomber squadron, the bomber group, you know. So it was divided in these 2 typical stuff. So it's when you see in the competitions and so on, or in magazine and picture, that the modeler made the plane with 4 Sparrow, 4 Sidewinder. Over the pylon of the Sidewinder, he also carry 6 and 6 paveway bombs, plus the external tanker, plus the under tank. That is completely mistaken. It was not possible for the plane to make a mission in that type of condition. Then yes, from a modelistic point of view, it's always quite interesting and cute to see all the missile and all the parts completely made and weathered and with all the stencils. You see, this is inside the box. They provide you an entire sheet about stencils and so on. So every weapon carried by the plane became a kind of model into the model. So it is absolutely very nice to see, despite is everything loaded under the plane. So it's not so easy unless you folder the model and not fix it over a base, you know. As I said, so you have these huge details provided by them. You see, they also give you a pilot. This is really a step forward in the quality that Academy made, you know. And this was, for some years, it have been, I think this is a model from, I don't know if they placed the year where they made it, but it was not made some years ago. It was from 2013. So it's 10 years ago, just 10 years ago. Old mold, you know. In the meanwhile, we had on the market arriving the brand new Tamiya F-4B. For now they made it. Now we are in 2024 when I'm making this video. Probably will be scheduled for 2025 this video, but right now the nicest Phantom you can have around is the F-4B made by Tamiya, as well as the Meng kit featuring the long nose Phantom, so the E and the G version, you know. But in my opinion, also this type, as well as I said in the video about the F4G from Hasegawa, they are exceptional models. So when you have a very nice detail, when you have a fresh mold, you know, something that have been made at the top of the level at the time, from the company, you have something really masterpiece in your hand. So this is something that if you just paint properly, despite they try to help you probably with the color of the plastic that really don't help so much in my opinion, it's more a minus than a plus, you see. The details is absolutely well done, so it's just that you paint in the proper way with the proper weathering, all the metal part around the exhaust. You neither need so much. You see also they give you the different nozzles from the engine, you know, the long flares nozzles and the short one there. So for all the different version, you know, it's very nicely done. Very nice. There is a lot of option, there is a lot of parts, you know. For this, for example, you don't need to change it with the iris stuff. I was just searching around when I made a video about the F-4G from Hasegawa, about the cockpit made from iris, you know, but nowadays it happens that the cockpit is usually more expensive than the entire plane. And honestly, in this type of model of the Academy one, it's so many, it has so many details inside the cockpit that you really don't need that extra detail. Maybe if you really want to go for something special, you can just think to change maybe just the action seats, you know, that are always a little bit nicer, you know. But an action seats, I think it was the Phantom was using the Martin Baker Mk4 over the plane. Not so sure about that because I didn't remember so much about the plane. The transparent part are of course sealed in a different sprue and in a different plastic, already divided, and of course they also place the touching point to the sprue in a easy condition where you can simply cut without making any damage. There is a little line of the mold in the middle, so you have to apply some little tricks to make it disappear. It's not so difficult. There is several tutorials, maybe also I can make one. It's not so difficult, you know, to send that line away. You see that there is the molding line under the plastic, probably you can see there, you see. And very interesting that they also provide the fuselage in an entire part. This was something made in the beginning in the Tamiya Phantom in 132 scale, because the first models that you can find around about the Phantom usually had a big separation line on the top of the fuselage that every time forces the modeler to use the filler in this point and try to reproduce all this type of panel lines. So it was Tamiya the first one that just made, okay, the contact screw is here, then we had the little panel that fits exactly in the point where there is the injection of the plastic, and this will disappear, and so you don't have to make any work of alignment of the fuselage that always can be a little bit tricky, you know. Some people made a complaint about the bulge. You know, there is the Phantom have so many fans and so many specialists around that everybody know everything around the Phantom, you know. So just take my 2 cents. In my opinion, this is a fantastic model. Then, of course, if you have something nicer in your hands, if you want to go for something different, basically if you want to do a different version, you know, because the B version was the Navy version, it was not the Air Force version, you know, you can go for Tamiya or for the long nose, like we say, Mang, or even Hasegawa. You know, I remember you that this model I pay 60 euros, the Hasegawa complete I think I pay 15 euros, something like that. So if the proportion of the price is that, I will every time go for such kind of model. They also placed two radom for 2 different versions. I still didn't know the difference between the 2 versions because I didn't study the model completely. I just opened it because I wanted to see how it was detailed inside, how they made the details inside, you know, all the infrared. This was the infrared system for the missile, you know, that was carried under the nose, under the probe, giving the typical shape of the Phantom, you know. But there is a huge amount of parts inside, you know, a huge amount of details. Look also the rims of the main landing gear. I don't know if they made the landing gear in plastic or in rubber. I don't see any rubber floating around, so probably it is made in plastic. You see also the scheme of the air intake going to the engine is quite well done. You know, the model is absolutely standard. Plus, you have all this. Look how many loads you have. This was a reminding from Hasegawa. If you see the video of the F-4G that I made in 48, there is no extra load inside. There is just a very few part of it. Look how many bombs and carries did they give you, including the pilot. The pilot are not so bad at all. You see. Pilot are not so bad at all. This is a cute plus that they had in some models, you know, the pilot saluting, making the okay with the thumb up, and the helmet. You can rework it to make it open, to make it closer, giving 2 heads. You know, there is 2 heads for every pilot, so you can make both them with the helmet in the flight configuration or with the helmet in the ground configuration or with open face visible. For me, it's a fantastic model. As I said, there is always something better. If you look for something better, then you never end, you know. But when you cross this type of models, my idea is always to catch them, to collect and look the Sparrow and the side windows. These are really, really well done. Different angles also for the fin of the Sparrows. Look how many fins. There is no flash. The molding is nearly perfect. You know, I like it. I like this a lot. They also give you different types of side windows. You know, there is the M9B, M9L, depending from the version you're going to do. This is probably a kind of sprue that is in common with many other boxes for now, and I have both of them, to be honest. You know, I became a Phantom freak. You know, the plane is fantastic, so why not? And I also took the other box they made about the Sundowners. You know, they have an incredibly nice decal with the rising sun on the tail of the plane. So it's absolutely wonderful to have. You know, but again, the only disappointing part, in my opinion, is just this double color that have no meaning at all today. Make it completely white or make it completely gray. What is the difference? You know, which is the meaning to have plastic? Really no idea. Somebody that buy this stuff never assembled this just for the pleasure to have it colored in plastic. And then what do? Gray fuselage and white fin? No. And black around it? Nah. Everybody that buy this stuff want to paint this stuff. Nobody keep it in the sprue color. Nobody did since the 80s, you know. So I really don't know what were they thinking about. This is really a little minus in this kind of wonderful paint. That is the other box they made, you know. It was of course an F4B. And the difference between the F4B and the following versions, so starting from the J, the N, the S, or the long nose Phantoms, was basically around the wing. The most visible stuff was around the wing because they reinforced the main landing gear, and the tire became wider, so they need more space to host the closed position of the landing gear inside the wing. So the other version of the Phantom features a much higher bulge over this position. You know, the B, I think, is nearly completely flat over here, so that you see the wing that is really completely flat. Then this bulge changed from version to version, you know, and that was the main difference between the planes, you know. And I think the Air Force One were the first one including this type of modification already from this type of version, while the Navy one had to wait until I think it was the J that had the different version. But once again, you know, guys, there is millions of reference about the Phantom. The Phantom we are talking about is like to talk about Coca-Cola, so there is everything around this plane. It is one of the most famous, and in my opinion, one of the nicest that ever flown in the air, you know. Look, the typical nose. This is really the Phantom used in the Squadron Signal books, you know. I had millions of them. I still save all of them, with the illustration by Lou Randall, Don Greer, you know, the in-action series from Squadron Signal. I grew up with the stuff. I learned my English at the beginning when I was a kid, before the school, over the Squadron Signal magazine and books. So, you know, I love them. I badly love them, yeah. And this was a colored guide, extremely useful. You see, you can completely see the pattern of the different tones of green and tan, plus all the position for the stencil. That is really a work, you know, so because it is in the under position, so I don't know if it is worth it to fulfill this way completely the model with stencil and so on, but it's absolutely eye-catching. When you do the stuff, is absolutely a must. So that's it. Once again, if you maybe try to find this model around for maybe a bargain price, no wonder, it's still too new in my opinion to be at a bargain price, and the people that have it, very difficult to want to sell it at a cheap price. You know, I had this one, I love this one, so I have absolutely no clue to give it away at a cheaper price. Why should I don't need, so I don't have any idea to do this stuff. But take the model and build it and enjoy it as much as you can. The model is fantastic for what you pay for. You have look how many details, how many sprues. I completely don't know neither if I will be able to close it again inside this box. You know, I have to do this way. Fantastic model. So, reminding Academy guys, as you told in the beginning of the video, this is a fantastic model, guys. This is a fantastic model. I have no idea of any major mistakes. So, in my opinion, Academy made a masterpiece. So, this is absolutely worth the money they ask. 60 euros, real price can be around 50. I mean, if you are lucky, you know, there is full of it, Amazon, eBay, just check around. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.